Hi, thanks for joining me today on Thursday Thursdays with a therapist, where we talk about tools and tips and titillating tidbits to quench the thirst in your relationship. My name is Jaleisha Gatling. I'm a couples therapist here in New York City, and today's topic is shut it up. That's right, I said it. Shut up, shut it up, zip it. Now, today's topic, you're probably like, what is this about? Why are you telling me to shut up? You're being a little abrasive. I think I might shut this off. Please don't, because this is super important. This is tied to listening, to the importance of feeling heard in your relationship. I know it might sound backwards, but you guys just hang tight and I'm going to make my point. I recently wrote a blog. I hope you guys checked it out. It's called Shut That Hole in Your Face. Yes, that's the name of the blog. Go to my website, you can check it out. And it's more of an extended version of what I'm going to talk about in this video today. I'm talking about shutting it up because I think it's an important element when you're feeling like your partner isn't listening to you, which might sound a bit backwards. But I find that when a client is telling me that their partner is not listening to them, they feel like they're not being heard on a constant basis, that they themselves are blocking their partner from hearing them and from getting the message that they're trying to communicate in a number of ways. And so one of the ways that they might do this is by not shutting up, by not making space to actually hear their partner, by talking over them, by being so focused, hyper focused on getting their point across, that that they miss some things that their partner is trying to tell them, or that their partner is experiencing. And sometimes we have where it's both ways. Both people are trying to be heard. Well, that's actually probably more common than not, where both are feeling not heard, trying to get their point across, so frustrated at having the same conversation over and over again that they just go in circles and no one's being heard, and you're just yelling and screaming and saying the same thing over and over again, and the frustration is building because you're like, how are they not getting it? So in addition to making space to hear your partner and to be, and when I say hear and I say shut up, I don't mean just like not talking. I mean actually listening to understand, listening to listening to be curious, like being curious about where your partner is coming from, and not simply focused on what you want to share, what you want them to understand. It has to be a two-way street. This listening thing is not a one-person problem. It rarely ever is, honestly. It's usually a couple problem, and I want you guys to approach it as such. And this isn't just for couples. This could be in a number of relationships, right? So what are some ways that you might be blocking your partner from being able to hear you? What are some ways that you might be helping them to actually shut down and tune you out? One, screaming and yelling. Are you screaming and yelling at the top of your lungs? Are you berating your partner? Are you criticizing and attacking them? Are you coming across as very aggressively? There's a difference between being aggressive and assertive. I'm going to talk about that in a different video, but that's something to consider. Are you bringing things up at a really bad time? Maybe in the middle of the morning rush, where you're rushing to get the kids ready and you're bringing up the budget or something. Like that's not a good component to have when you are trying to bring up something that maybe is serious or concerning to you. What's another thing that we do? You hold things in. Do you hold things in and then you explode like a volcano? And then you get pissed that your partner didn't understand what you're trying to say. They're trying to yield themselves from the fire that you just exploded on out of nowhere. So those are ways that we might be blocking our partner from hearing us, that we have to take into consideration. And so by taking into consideration all of those things, approaching it from a calm space, with good timing, and without the criticism and attacking, you can create space for your partner to hear you. But also, in addition to that, by simmering down and actually listening to what they have to say, whether that be before or after, but actually listening to where they're coming from, it can make a tremendous difference. The last thing that I will say is that don't end a conversation or a dialogue, especially on something that you feel like you have previously been misunderstood on. Don't end it with a surface level takeaway. And let me expand on that. I think it's really important that when we have a conversation, especially around something that has been really difficult for us to express, or that we feel like our partner has completely missed in the past, it's so important that we at the end say something to the effect of, okay, so what's our takeaway? What's the message that we're leaving on in this conversation? So say, for example, you have a misunderstanding or a little tiff at dinner because your partner was on his phone texting, and you're feeling pissed off because they're on their phone, you're at dinner, and you let them know that. So say that you guys have this dialogue and you're like, okay, I think he's hearing me, I think he's got it. And you say to, let's say, Brian, what's the takeaway from this? And Brian says, you get pissed off when I'm on my phone, so I'm not gonna be on my phone at dinner. I'll try not to do that anymore because it pisses you off. You guys could very well end on that, and maybe that's satisfactory to you, but there's something else going on that's much deeper, that could be much more meaningful and so much more powerful if you were to go just a little bit deeper, because that answer is just kind of hovering on the surface. Now, I think a more realistic and meaningful message and takeaway from this might be, I missed you, Brian. Like, I missed you. I've been missing you. I haven't seen you in a couple of days. Work has been insane. I got off early and I was looking forward to seeing you. And I just I felt like, oh, he's on his phone. Has he missed me? Like, what's going on? I feel like you I don't know if you're actually listening to me because you keep glancing at your phone. And it's making me feel insecure, and it's kind of taking the wind out of my sails, because I was looking forward to tonight and I had this vision of what it was going to be like to see you and connect with you, and I was excited to tell you about this promotion that I got, and blah 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 blah. Like, all of that stuff. The key points being, I missed you, I was looking forward to seeing you, and I'm feeling a little ignored, or like maybe you weren't really looking forward to connecting with me as well, and are we here? That's money. That's juice. Like, that's what we want to be talking about. So getting to the crux, the core of the meaning of that conversation is so important following the conversation. And I think that can really confirm for you that your partner's hearing you, and that you guys are actually talking about what's actually going on for you in a vulnerable way. So I will end on that. If you guys have not yet checked out my free guide on helping your partner to be a better listener, make sure you check that out. I'm going to put a link below where you guys can get this free guide. It's got 5 solid tips. One of them is around shutting up. We just covered that today for the most part, but this is going to expand on some other really awesome solid tips to help your partner be a better listener. I want you guys to make sure you check that out. And it's super important also because it's tied to next week's Thirsty Thursdays, where sometimes one thing that comes up from improving listening and being more honest and open and vulnerable with your partner, it can bring to the surface some real inner truths that we haven't been talking about. And sometimes the truth can hurt. So the next episode, I am talking about when you are in your element, when you are able to really tease out what your needs are, what your fears are, what you're going through in a real deep way, how sometimes that can be hard to swallow. And so next week's episode is, can you handle the truth? And I'm going to talk about some situations that are really common for couples when that comes up in response to improving communication and being a lot more real with yourself and with one another. So tune in for that. Make sure you check that out. Check out the blog if you guys haven't read that already, because it's a more extended dialogue around what we've talked about today. I hope you guys got a lot from this. Shoot some comments to me below. I want to hear what you guys think. I want to know if you guys are finding this information useful. I'll see you guys next week on Thirsty Thursdays with a therapist on Can You Handle the Truth?